Welcome, everybody. Today on my podcast, I'm interviewing Julie Cisler, my longtime student, disciple, all around excellent Tai Chi teacher and friend. It's going to be a great conversation, so stick around and I'm going to grill Julie. Welcome, everybody, to the Inspired Teachers Podcast. I really appreciate all your uh, comments, subscriptions, likes, shares, all that YouTube stuff. I really appreciate it. It's just been really fun, and I'm learning a lot about all my different guests, and as I hope you are too. And it's just really been a blast. So I just want to thank you all, and tell your friends, tell your families about the Inspired Teachers Podcast. Today, I'm really excited. I have my longtime student and disciple, Julie Cisler. Now, Julie just told me that in January she celebrated her 26th anniversary of studying Tai Chi, which is incredible.
With you.
With me, 26 years. It has been amazing. So, Julie, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here.
Glad to be here.
So would you tell everybody kind of how we met, how you came by this school, and how we began this 26-year relationship?
Sure. I'd actually been looking for a Tai Chi teacher for a while after I moved to the Twin Cities. And I did not have very good luck at first. I went to a few different schools, and I had some not very great feelings walking away from those schools. Some of them seemed cliquey, some of them they were too new agey right away, and then there was the martial arts school where I went to where the students choked each other until they passed out.
Nice.
I'm not interested in that. But I'd been, my husband, or my, well, actually, yeah, my boyfriend and then husband talked about how he really wanted to do Aikido. So I'd been studying Aikido with him for a while because I liked the school, it was affordable, and it reminded me of Tai Chi in that it was soft and circular. But then I started hearing about this guy, Ray Hayward, that taught in St. Paul and taught pushing hands, and I'd been wanting to learn pushing hands ever since my first Tai Chi experience back in college. So circumstances were strange. Matt lost his job, got laid off, and we were too broke to do anything for a while. And then after about, I think a year and a half, we got our financial situation was a little more settled, and we got a bunch of money for Christmas, and I said, let's use that money for our health. Let's go to the Tai Chi school, because Matt had a bum knee from Aikido, and he was afraid he was going to never be able to do anything again with it. So I said, maybe Tai Chi will help you. And that's why we came to Twin Cities Tai Chi Chuan. And I don't remember the first time I met you, except that I remember I really loved your teaching and your demeanor and everything right away. I knew it what felt like a great place to be studying, and I was just so excited. So yeah, that was January 6th, 1997.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you had Tai Chi before, though. Can you give me a little bit more?
Yeah.
Give us a little more of your background.
I was a student at the University of South Dakota, in the art program, I was working at a local record store for a friend of mine who was one of my best friends in college, a guy named Richard Mesmer, and he, after I'd been working for him for a little while, he asked if I was interested in learning Taekwondo, because he'd just gotten his black belt and he wanted some experience teaching. So he offered to teach me and two of his other friends for free. And I thought, well, why not? It's free. And I liked it. his two other friends were much larger than me. I was a lot skinnier back then, and one of them was about 6'3", a brown belt in Taekwondo, and had really long arms and legs, and the other one was 6'4", and was a former collegiate wrestler who was like the size of a bear. So it was interesting to spar with them in Taekwondo. But then about 6 months after I started studying Taekwondo with my friend, he also offered to teach us Tai Chi for free. He learned the People's Republic of China form, Beijing form, and from a woman in Sioux City, Iowa, because was in Vermilion, South Dakota. And he said, yeah, I'll teach you guys that for free too. First time I tried it, I fell in love with Tai Chi. I was like, I can't believe something that feels so good is a martial art. So I really was interested right away, very, very interested. And yeah, he didn't teach pushing hands. He said he had no experience with pushing hands. So he taught the solo form, and he found a book by Dr. Yang Xuingming and found a sword form and kind of taught us a Tai Chi sword form.
Wow.
And that was about all we did. And then when I was ready to move away from Vermilion and come to the Twin Cities after college, he awarded me a green belt in Taekwondo, and then told me, go to the Twin Cities, find somebody who can teach you pushing hands. And that was my mission, basically. Yeah. And when I first moved to the Twin Cities, I couldn't find a school, and I was really broke. So I would just practice on my own, and I would see if I could talk my friends into practicing with me. I'd teach them a little bit, and it was okay. Nobody was really that interested in my then boyfriend and now husband. He was also like, this Tai Chi stuff is okay, but I really want to learn Aikido. And yeah, so that was what happened up to when we started Aikido. Yeah, it was all right. I still remember little pieces of it, and I remember that when the only movement that felt like the form that I had learned was cloud hands, and everything else felt new. But that was good. I had already learned the phrase "beginner's mind" in Aikido, so.
I remember when I was really studying karate and really in love with karate, and on public TV in Boston, they were streaming a show from California. It was this Tai Chi teacher, Marshall Ho, and he was teaching the 24 form, and I would follow it on the TV, just enough to make fun of it,
Yeah.
And it was like whatever. It was like a couple of episodes, and then I remember he had this woman come because okay, everybody does Tai Chi slow. Show him the form fast, and this woman whipped through the form so fast, and I've been used to moving fast doing karate.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, and that stuck in my mind. Like someday I'm gonna find some of that.
Yeah, it wasn't just slow motion.
Yeah, it was amazing. So you studied at the school for seriously a lot of classes, and gradually that school where I was teaching was a nonprofit, and you actually became the board president. You were on the board, went through the chairs, became president not once, but twice.
Yeah.
What was that like? Just a little bit of background. What was that like?
Well, the first time through, it was it's work of a sort, and I was weird to be the president of a board of directors because it's just I was just like at the point in time I was working as a graphic designer, and then when they brought me back, it was because things were already starting to show signs of trouble, and they needed somebody with some experience that was willing to put up with people being not very nice sometimes. Yeah, but that's okay. It was, it was all right. I learned some things about nonprofits. I learned about some of the frustrations that you dealt with on a regular basis, and other people did too. And now when my husband talks about his challenges at the Zen Meditation Center, and I think, oh yeah, all nonprofits are like that.
It's the reason it's called nonprofit.
Yeah. All
Because there's no
nonprofits
profit. No,
are
I'm just
desperate
kidding.
for volunteers, and they
Yeah.
will ask you to volunteer for everything because they need people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm very thankful for the advantages and benefits I got there, and I remember you as a board president. I mean, you know, I felt like we were in great hands, and
Thank you.
you know, not once but twice, and
Yeah.
well, and you know, gradually I know that at the school we would always have the senior students help out teaching, and you have been teaching for a long time, and also teaching on your own. Would you tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
your moving into teaching, and where you're teaching and what you're doing?
Well, you know, even when I was a kid, I would tell my mom that I kind of wanted to be a teacher when I grew up, and I didn't know why exactly. At the time, I was thinking that I would be a teacher for parochial schools because it was a Christian guilt thing.
Mm.
But once you started asking me to tutor people in class, I immediately enjoyed it. It was like, wow. When Master Leong says to teach is to learn twice, that is the understatement of the century. And I felt like I was learning so much about not just Tai Chi, but how to teach, about human nature, about my own foibles and my own strengths. It was really fantastic, and I wanted to do more of it.
And everybody learns differently.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the thing that in the beginning was frustrating for me, but then became so amazing was people would always ask that really hard question that you didn't have the answer for.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
were like, wow, I never even, you know, they put something together. What about this? You'd be like, I had no clue,
Yeah.
you know, and I'd go up and
Sometimes
ask.
beginners would ask the best questions.
Absolutely.
They would come in on their first class and they would ask a question like, wow, I never even occurred to me to think of that, and what a great question. Yeah.
And sometimes you have these two pieces of the answer floating around in your experience.
Yeah.
And their question puts it together.
Yes. Yes.
You know, that's why it's like, you know, my teaching is from my practice sometimes.
And sometimes if they, you know, like if they won't listen or they won't pay attention, I find it a good creative challenge for me to find a different way to maybe get through to them.
Mm.
So seems like you know, it's always a chance to be creative as a teacher and find some teaching method that maybe I didn't try before, might work for this person, but maybe not. But, you know, it won't make it any worse and it won't hurt them.
Right. Yeah, you know, it's Master Leong would actually teach us how to teach, and he would have us tutor, and then he would come over and he'd give a little critique, and he could tell, he'd say, you didn't get this detail to them, because
Yeah.
it would show up in them. They're only doing what you're telling them
Yeah,
to.
exactly.
It can be very humbling when, you know, you look at your students, and it really, on one level, any fault with them is your fault.
Yeah.
You know, outside of them not practicing.
Yes, or listening.
Yes. Do you so you started teaching outside the school though at some point?
Yeah, with your permission.
Yes.
You know, of course. And you also did the same thing that Master Leong did. You would come in and check with me every time I tutored and see how they were doing, and sometimes add a little bit of wisdom, and it was good. I learned a lot about that and about what to pay attention to, things like that. And then you would hold classes where you would teach how to tutor and, you know, be in their line of sight and things like that. Very helpful. And
That is my fantasy book, by the way.
oh yeah.
Once
How to teach
I
it?
finish the Pushing Hands book, Julie has helped me get so many books together. She really.
It's all that graphic design
Yeah, I
practice.
mean, I am just blessed, and we were just talking earlier about how I'm going to start sending her some chapters. But when I finish the Pushing Hands book, I really want to do a book on how to teach Tai Chi, because I mean, you know, I have a lot of experience, and getting the experience from my teachers, getting experience from people I've taught who are now teaching. It's just there's some interesting, you
Well,
know.
teaching Tai Chi is like a master class because it's so counterintuitive. People come in and they think, oh, this is exercise, or this is just martial arts. And then you have to kind of walk them back from either one of those notions and try to help them. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I kind of lost track of your question.
I was just asking about some of the different venues and how you were teaching outside the school.
Yeah, so I started out teaching a friend, and that was the first person I taught, and that's because they were interested in learning, and I thought, well, I'll get your permission first, I'll teach them. And I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed all the tutoring that I was doing at the school, and you'd have me fill in for you sometimes when you were out traveling or not able to be there.
Yep.
Or fill in for you when you needed to get some work done before you came in to teach the lesson for the class. And so I'd had a fair amount of experience, and I was working as a graphic designer at a company that I don't even know if they exist anymore. It was a great place to work when I started working there, but they didn't change fast enough to keep up with the times, and then they got new management that really just wanted to treat the place like it was some kind of Walmart experience. And so working conditions got worse and worse, and then they started doing round after round of layoffs, and I saw the writing on the wall, and I wasn't happy there anymore. I was barely doing my job. I was managing other people without getting paid as a manager. I was fixing up files for outside people that they were hiring to do things, but I really wasn't doing much book design or layout anymore. And so a friend of mine mentioned that she knew somebody that had just opened a dance studio and was looking for people who might be interested in teaching classes there and renting from her. And I thought, you know what, this is my chance. I want to try to do this because I am so miserable, and it's only a matter of time before I get laid off, or before they close down our department entirely, or they close it down and they put me in charge of something that I didn't get hired to do in the first place. So I'm pretty sure I asked you if that was okay, and you gave me your blessing. And
Absolutely.
so that was October 1st of 2008. That's when I started teaching full time, and it was rough. It took a long time for me to build up students. One of my downfalls as a self-employed person is I'm not really great at advertising for myself, but momentum and building up a good rapport with people, things are doing okay now.
So with the whole pandemic and the lockdown and things, I had to learn about Zoom.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious. I try to ask everybody, either teaching or learning, what do you see as the strong points of learning and teaching on Zoom, and what do you see as the weak points? Because I know you also teach on Zoom.
Yeah. I started it as soon as I could because I didn't want my income to go away. And so the strengths of Zoom are that you can connect with people no matter where they are. And no matter how they're feeling. If they're feeling ill, they can still attend on Zoom because they can be there. And nobody's going to get exposed to anything. If they're across the country, they can still join in, and you can kind of make a connection. But it's not the same as in person. In person is always the best. In person, you can watch your teacher from many angles all at the same time. You can see details that you might miss on a video screen, depending on what device you're using to attend the class. Most people have a laptop or even a phone, so then it's really hard. I had somebody who came to my Zoom classes for a little while, and then they said, the only thing that really works for me because I'm using my phone is the audio. So I learned that I had to change my teaching, which is good. It's a good challenge. So that I did more verbalization all the way through the class, and it would help people keep on track no matter what quality video they had. if they could see me or not. And I changed the way I would show somebody something. I do it from a bunch of different angles so they could watch and see different details. And I still do hybrid classes, but I feel like now it's like taking a back seat to the in-person stuff. Unless nobody shows up to the in-person class and they're all on hybrid because it's snowing or something like that, but it's okay. And then that's the other nice thing about Zoom is if we get a blizzard or something else happens, I can still teach from my home. And they can still attend class, and everybody gets something out of it at least, even if it's not quite as rich and wonderful as in person.
I never realized to what extent I use my intuitive skills teaching in person. It's just because when I teach on Zoom, like I have to look, and it is really strange. Like in person, I mean, I'm kind of like a parent with eyes in the back of my head. I catch everything, and it's really easy to coordinate and steer, and the lesson is right there, and people are there. Excuse me, but teaching on Zoom, like you have to keep watching. You don't realize how much you don't have to watch with that straight, conscious looking eye. It's interesting. It's been a challenge, but So one thing I'm thinking, we just had our Pushing Hens class tonight. We have people in Massachusetts and just like you're saying, all over.
Yeah.
I think one thing that would be good is to do some kind of Zoom classes and then have seminar or workshop to then be in person and then really do the refinement and the fine tuning.
Yes. Zoom is not great for fine tuning and refinements.
No. Now, if you have attended many in-person classes and you have a personal practice, I think you can get a lot out of Zoom. It's much harder, I think, for a brand new person.
In fact, part of what I did at the beginning of the pandemic when I started my Zoom classes, as I realized that I had some students that only attended in-person classes, didn't have a good practice, and they were feeling really isolated. And so they would come to my Zoom classes, but they still felt isolated, so I started making them practice in the Zoom class. I'd give them an assignment, and I'd let them just practice a little bit. And that really worked. It started to give them some real confidence.
Yeah.
And they developed a practice because of that. So it was excellent for that.
I mean, I have been hearing from people who have students that never did Tai Chi and learned the form on Zoom, and they would make them change angle and do all this stuff, and I think Zoom is our oyster, and I'm not done with it. Really I'm encouraged.
Yeah.
And now that we started our Thursday night hybrid where we're streaming, and I thank you for helping me with that, and I think that's been a great addition to the teaching as well.
Sure, yeah. Well, and I forget that my actual first video student was my father, because he lives in Rapid City, South Dakota. So I can't drive 1,000 miles out there and back every week to teach him. And when he came to visit me last fall, he came to one of my classes. My mom came along too, but she doesn't want to learn from me. That's okay. Whatever. She doesn't want to learn anything from her daughters. They can't be authority figures to her.
Of course not.
No. But my dad, he doesn't mind, and it's really helped him. His health is so much better because of his Tai Chi practice. So he got to experience some in-person stuff, like I showed him rooting, and I showed him a little bit of pushing hands, and talked about like a wrist lock. We did the needle at sea bottom wrist lock, and he was really impressed. And it got him really excited about that stuff. So, it's always, that would be like an example of somebody learning pretty much entirely remotely and then getting a chance to do a little bit of in-person stuff just to get a feel to encourage them to keep doing it.
Yeah, that I'm encouraged too, hearing these stories, because Master Liang's idea was that Tai Chi was the whole world's exercise.
Yeah.
Everybody should do it, and the more outreach and the more people we can get doing it.
Yeah, I'm trying to live that when I let in new students. I tell people that I'm not going to try to teach everyone in the world, because some people just don't want to learn from me for no whatever reason. And I just want to be there to teach the people who want to learn from me. So I actually have a scholarship program that people have to actually be brave enough to come to me and say, I can't really afford your classes. And then I offer them this scholarship. And I won't even talk about how much it is, but it's not very much. It's they have to pay something, because I took your advice on that. But it's affordable for anybody, because I feel like that's sometimes the one thing that keeps a lot of people who would really be enthusiastic students away from learning.
Yep.
And I've got one student who's on that scholarship program, and they've been great. I'm really excited. They've only been studying with me for about a year and a half now, and there were some gaps in there because of their financial situation and their educational situation, but they're going to keep coming back.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard so many people, during the pandemic say that, Tai Chi and the art, and even just the little bit of Zoom and the little bit of newsletters, just keeping the contact and knowing that
Yeah.
we're all out practicing. And the I don't know if you remember, I did this. It was a blog where I said, send me a picture of your personal practice space.
Oh yeah.
Well, that actually really got a lot of people, because when they started seeing, well, you only practice in this little piece of your kitchen or whatever,
Yeah.
and other people have home schools, like, look at this space where I practice.
Yeah.
It was just really encouraging, and I don't know. For me, it's I've been teaching for a long time. Zoom is just like another facet to the diamond.
Yes.
Now teaching. Speaking about teaching, you had attended quite a few seminars with my teacher, Grandmaster Wyland Choi, and you went out to Chicago for
Yeah.
the last class we had with him, and then he
That
packed
was
up
amazing.
he packed up the equipment from the school, and
Yeah.
I brought it back to the other school.
And I still have some of that equipment.
Yeah, I do too. So for the audience, if you would talk a little bit about what it was like to study with Master Choi, and some of
Master
your
Choi is
experiences.
amazing. He's, um, if he heard me say that, the first thing he would say is, "No, I'm only human." It's true, and that's what makes him amazing. It's that he's so down to earth. He really cares so much about these arts, and he's very sincere and generous and kind-hearted, and his genius is not so there are some things he does that now, I watch old kung fu movies and I think, yeah, that's totally fictional. But then I would see Master Choi do something and I would think, maybe not. But putting all of that aside, what his real genius is that he can distill these very difficult, very counterintuitive ideas down to a really simple English phrase that anybody can understand. And the problem is people think, oh, it's a metaphor then, but no, it's literally true. And I am so grateful that I got to work with him thanks to you.
Yeah.
And he's just, it's amazing to meet a real grandmaster. And the fact that he is always adamant that he's only human, it makes me hopeful for myself. and my future.
Yeah, he would say, I'm not worried that you're going to get all my knowledge. I'm worried that you won't.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
yeah, he's definitely. And that whole thing is that he would say, look at my example. You know,
yeah,
you gotta. I'm the example. That's why you have to believe me. You know,
yeah,
I'm not superhuman, or he'd say I'm not special. I just work really hard.
yes, yes.
And I remember he told the story that when he was immigrating from Hong Kong to Chicago, his classmate takes him up. He said to top of Kowloon Mountain, overlooking Hong Kong. And this was after Master Choi had won the world championship.
Oh, yes.
And the guy said, hey, I just got to ask you, you know, you're going to go to America. I may never see you again. We've been buddies. What's the secret that Master Chan Yuk-yeon gave you so you could win the tournament? And Master Choi he said he was heartbroken.
Yeah.
He said,
Yeah.
I'm in the same classes as you. He taught everybody equal. He goes, number one, you're insulting our teacher. And he said, number two, you're insulting me. He said, what I did, I practiced what he told us to practice.
Yeah. Well,
know?
I've experienced something similar. Back at the old studio, I'd have people come up to me and go, oh, you're taking private lessons from Sifu, so you're getting all this secret information. That's why you're doing so well. I said, I haven't taken a private lesson from him in years. I've been coming to class and I've been listening and taking notes and
Yep.
practicing. That's what I'm doing. I'm paying attention and I'm not going, yeah, bullshit, blah, you know, I'm paying attention.
Yep.
And, you know, I have to share with you the first time I met Master Choi. He came out here for a seminar.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the day that the seminar was over, we went to brunch in some high-rise restaurant in St. Paul. And I will never forget this. He said something that struck me as so important. And I've remembered it verbatim for years and years after, and that is, if you have perfect alignment and the right level of relaxation, you can throw 100% of your body weight behind one finger.
Mm.
And I was like, wow. And that's not even the most amazing thing I've seen him do.
Mm.
But I never forget that. And yeah, again, it's a simple English phrase, but it describes a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, when he used to come to Minneapolis, he would actually stay at my house. But as I started getting, you know, from 2 cats to 3 cats to 4 cats,
Yeah.
he was allergic. So, but when
Yeah.
he was staying at my house, you know, I'd get up early in the morning. He'd already be up, stretching, drinking coffee, and you know, maybe sometime I'll do a podcast and we'll just tell Master Choi stories. But I saw this. A bunch of people saw this at my house. He's doing fingertip push-ups, not fingerprint, fingertip, and he did 10, and then he did 10 and he subtracted a finger, and he did 2 push-ups on just his index fingers.
Yep.
So when he said whole body behind the
Yeah.
you know,
He meant it.
he meant it. And then when he would put a finger near you, it'd be like, oh my
Yeah.
God.
Well, he would say it too. He would say, if you see this, don't worry about it. No problem. But if you see me do this, you're going to die.
And the energy, you know,
Yes.
I remember one of the seminars just recently at Mindful Motion where, you know, it was an 8-hour seminar, and we worked and worked and worked, and at the end, like, there was a bunch of us sitting, and he was the only one standing.
We were all tired, and he could
We were
go
exhausted.
and go. Well, part of it was that he was just so excited to have people to talk to who took him seriously and believed him. You know, his
Oh, yeah.
family they kind of respect him, but they kind of don't, because they're his family. It's like
Well, they don't
Albert
realize-
Einstein's family would say, what does the genius want for dinner?
Exactly. I think, it was a demonstration at Joanne's house. And it was one summer, Master Choi and his wife and 2 children came. They were going to the Dells, and they went to Mall of America, and he said, hey, I'm in town. and so, long story short, we're at Joanne's, and he does this demonstration. He goes, "What do you want to see?" And we're like, hey, "Can we see 12 animals? Can we see the?" And he's doing stuff. And at the end, his wife said, "Wow, I didn't know you know all this stuff." Because, everybody,
Yeah.
like, she's not at the school seeing,
Yeah,
she realizes
yeah.
he's a master, but
yeah.
it's kind of funny like that.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of schools, on my 60th birthday, I did, I did a lot of soul searching, and I did designate you as the person to take the school over, and you've been fantastic. Just the way you take care of everybody, you take care of the handouts and the websites and everything, and there's too much to explain, but yeah, you are definitely the successor of the school, and I'm excited, and for everybody. And,
It's
and with
a
Zoom
great
and-
honor for me as well, and I yeah.
Well, it was a big weight off my shoulders too.
Good.
But yeah, it was great. So, I've got some questions for you. So, here's one. So tell us a little bit about your personal practice. When you have time to practice and you have freedom to practice, what do you like to practice? Tell me what you practice.
Well, I love practicing the solo form very much. I really do. It's my favorite, and I don't always get a chance to practice weapons, but that is always. It took me a while to appreciate the weapons practice so much, but now if I do have the time and energy and space, I like to do the spear and the sword the most. The saber I like too, but yeah. And swimming dragon form. Really,
I was gonna say,
I love it.
you probably didn't have to talk yourself into Bagua. You love Bagua.
Yeah, well, I wasn't gonna take Bagua. I was really interested in Tai Chi, and then Matt, it was like, would you go to Bagua classes with me? Would you take notes when I miss class? And then I ended up being the one that stayed. He still practices though. Every day.
He got
Or maybe
he got
not every
he got
day.
the Bagua from
5 days a week, and he's got deer horn knives.
Yep.
He's got a staff. He's got a spear in there. He practices in the living room in the mornings before he goes to work. Yep. So, he's still doing Bagua Zhang.
Yeah, from Aikido to Bagua. I remember one time, it was Master Choi. He said, "Yeah, Bagua, it's Aikido with an attitude."
That's pretty much it. Yes.
So, do you have a favorite form? Besides, you said you practice solo form. Do you have a favorite form though? Like, I don't know.
Well, if I was gonna say solo form, which form? I'd probably say the long form.
Yeah.
Is my favorite. I just I love it. It's there's so much. It's such a nice big catalog of movements and there's no end to what I can do with it.
Mm.
And then close second would be swimming dragon form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Again, I love practicing that as well. So,
Yeah, that's one of my favorites too. Well, here's a question for you, Julie. There's no wrong answer, but I'm going to put you on the hot seat here. What is your happiest memory?
Well, probably my wedding.
Your wedding.
It was such a It was a really wondrul day. And
Can you tell us a little bit?
That was before I met you.
Yeah.
That was not long before I met you. Let's see, not 4 years? No, 3 years before we met. We got married on a friend's farm near North Branch, and it was a place where we'd been to camp before and been to some parties there, and we thought, this is just a little out of town. It's a nice big space. We could get married in their barn if it's raining. Or he built a set of stairs that weren't too rickety up to the loft of the barn, so we got married on the stairs.
Nice.
And we had a small group of people that mostly close friends and family that we invited to the ceremony, and then we threw a big party with a potluck for everybody else to have for a reception, which was also at the farm. So we had we told people to bring a side dish, and then we provided them with either burgers or sausages, and I bought a cake. We did our wedding on a budget, but it was just so much fun. And in fact, this uncle of mine who wasn't one of my favorite people, but recently passed away, this was probably the only happy memory I have of this guy.
Mm-hmm.
He came up to me with his cane. He gave me a peck on the cheek and said it was the most fun he'd had with family ever.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
it was a blast.
So how many years you been married now?
This year it will be 29 years in July.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's crazy, but yeah, it was a really fun time. It was also the first time I shot a real gun
At your
at my wedding.
What was it?
So-
A hillbilly wedding? What do you?
So
what-
I was
tell me.
working for this little children's book publisher as a designer and a keyliner for a while, and I had the misfortune of being assigned to work on the series of books written by a lawyer slash Kempo instructor who had somehow talked his way into getting this publisher to privately publish his books so he could sell them to his students. And he was not a very good writer. He gave us 3 books, and most of the books that I worked on, I would do hand layouts, so keylining, very old school. Most books took me about a month of work to get them done and ready for printing. And that included rounds of edits and where I'd have to go physically put in new type and things like that. His books took like 8 months.
Ouch.
Of endless edits that were just like piddly. Like he couldn't make up his mind if he wanted to use this word or the or stuff like that. And it wasn't really helping. But he'd written his own book contract so that he could make edits until he was happy with it.
Ooh.
And after after about the 6th or 7th round of edits for one of his books, the editor suggested his contact suggested that maybe the book was about ready to publish. He tried to sue the company. So he was the bane of my existence, and my coworkers felt for me. So they talked to the owner of the farm, my friend, and he got it, he okayed it. Sometime during the reception, they called me aside and they brought this thing out of the barn. It was a life-size cardboard cutout of this person in his karate uniform. And they set him up in front of a cornfield, gave me a Glock with 10 rounds in the chamber, and said, see if you can hit one of the ketchup packets that they pasted over or taped over vital points on his body. And yep, I hit a ketchup packet right over his heart. So I have pictures of me with my arm around this cardboard cutout. Yes, and one of my friends from college, she was there. She made up a poem. She said, Julie Danker never shot a gun, but Mrs. Cisler did on her wedding day.
Wow.
Yes, that was pretty funny. And my mother was she was a little bit appalled by that, but she was just chanting to herself, I'm just glad she's married. I'm just glad she's married. I'm just glad she's married.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was pretty crazy. But yeah. The guy that owns the farm, they were bandmates with Matt back in the days when he was in a punk rock and noise band called Cancer Bunny. Yes. Their set list would be slow, fast, medium.
Oh my gosh. Well, I got one more question for you.
Okay.
It's an interesting question because it brings out stuff from people,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no right or wrong answer.
Sure.
Okay, Julie Cisler, who used to be Julie Danger, but now is Julie Cisler.
Yes.
You're looking in your magic crystal ball. What do you see?
I see me teaching. That's really, yeah.
Teaching into the sunset?
Yeah, teaching into the sunset.
Are you sure you're not looking in my crystal ball?
Yeah, I don't know. Could be, but yeah, yeah.
I mean, Master Leon literally was at least auditing and doing corrections at age 95.
Oh yeah,
You know,
he loved it too.
he loved it.
Master Choi, you know you gotta be careful. Don't like if he's trying to eat food or go to the bathroom,
Yep.
and you just say, "Sir, thank you so much for that lesson on such and such." He'll launch into another lesson. He loves it so much.
Yeah.
I get it. I love this art, and I love teaching it, and I love studying it. It really has given a lot to me. I feel like for every ounce of energy I give to Tai Chi, it gives back 10 times.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's very few things that get better the more you do it. Just ask anybody, like a pizza delivery driver.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to eat pizza? They,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, this art it's amazing because it's more than just exercise. It's more than just punches and kicks. It's more than just swinging swords or it's. The other thing is, you get to meet a lot of different people.
Yeah, you do. You never know.
And what a crazy thing! I mean, you moved from South Dakota, and I moved from Boston. Where did Matt came from? Chicago?
Yep, Chicago, Michigan City,
Yeah.
that area. Michigan City's like 90 minutes outside of Chicago, or an hour, depending on how fast you drive.
And it brings a lot of people together. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I had a friend of mine had a teacher in Wuhan, China. Oh, Wuhan, but not anywhere near any kind of wet markets. But that teacher was in his 90s, and all his senior students were like in their 50s and 60s.
Yep.
And then there were students younger than that, and it was like multi-generational. And they get up in the morning, they go to the mountain and practice. And I thought, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Till I can't do it anymore.
Yeah. Why not?
So.
And the results that I've seen, like my dad's health. My dad, who had back pain issues for the last 40 years, probably longer, probably more like 50 years. But it's because, like me, he was extremely sway back. And he had been seeing chiropractors for decades. He'd been taking pills. He'd been doing all kinds of stretches, and nothing really seemed to help. He just got worse and worse. And then I taught him how to stand with the right alignment, and he went from being able to stand for maybe 90 seconds without pain to being able to stand for 90 minutes without pain. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, he lives in Rapid City, South Dakota, so there aren't many other Tai Chi teachers out there.
Yeah.
So people see him and they're like, "What's that you're doing?" He says, "I'm practicing kicking your ass very slowly." Yes.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, that's a perfect way for us to end. This has been really fun. I mean, I know you, and yet I feel like I learned a bunch more about you.
Oh, good.
And I appreciate all you do for me and for Tai Chi and for the art and for
Thank
the
you,
students,
Cisler.
the school, the books and.
Well, it's all a labor of love.
I'm sending Julie now some. I'm gonna start sending her some chapters and from my Pushing Hands book finally, and I'm excited. So let's continue
Yeah,
working.
me too. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sifu.
Appreciate it. Thanks everybody. I hope you enjoyed Julie. She's great in class. She's great on the podcast, and I feel blessed to have her in my life. So, and I feel blessed to have you in my life. So continue liking and subscribing and all the YouTube stuff that you do, and please give some comments, and feel free to contact me, and I'll have quite a few more podcasts this year. So until I see you, keep practicing.